What happens when a warehouse owner trades his suit for a forklift, only to find out his employees are risking their lives every day and no one's doing anything about it? Quinton Owens stood by the window of his corner office, staring at the spreadsheet his assistant had just printed. Warehouse 12 out of the dozen he owned was the only one consistently missing its safety inspection deadlines. The numbers didn't lie. Damaged pallets, delayed shipments, high employee turnover. But the last straw came when a longtime client called, furious about a crushed shipment. That warehouse was bleeding money and trust. "This place is gonna bury itself," Quinton muttered. He'd inherited the logistics chain from his father 5 years ago. Back then, he'd promised himself he wouldn't let it rot from the inside like so many other family businesses. But lately, he'd been feeling the distance. 12 locations, over 200 employees. He couldn't know everyone personally anymore. Warehouse 12 was in a small industrial zone outside Cleveland. Most of the employees there had never met him. With the help of a shaved beard, dyed hair, a borrowed Ohio State hoodie, and a new pair of cheap boots, Quinton looked nothing like the man on the framed photo in every warehouse's break room. They were used to seeing the polished version of him on company memos, not the guy standing in the cold at 6 in the morning with a thermos and a fake name tag that read Rick. He was brought in as a temp forklift trainee. A staffing agency handled the placement standard for covering sudden shortages. The regular driver had quit without notice after a back injury, and they were desperate. No one asked questions. "Yo, Rick, you ever touch a lift before?" asked a tall guy with a cigarette tucked behind his ear. His name was Barry, the shift manager. Early 40s, wide frame, and a permanent scowl. "Yeah, a bit," Quinton said, keeping it vague. "Good, ain't got time to babysit, just follow Cody around." Cody was in his mid-20s, lean, sharp-eyed, and moved like he was always in a rush. He gave Quinton a chin nod and walked fast toward the loading docks. "Keep up." "Don't hit anything," Cody said without looking back. The place was chaos. Stacks of boxes teetered like they'd been piled during an earthquake. Pallets were split, shrink-wrap loose. The aisles were narrow. He watched as Cody zipped a forklift between 2 wobbling towers of paper towels and skidded to a stop inches from a worker carrying boxes. "Jesus, man," the worker yelled. "Relax, I've done this 1,000 times," Cody called back, laughing. Quinton felt his chest tighten. That was not how things were supposed to run. When he climbed into the forklift, he immediately saw the first problem. The maintenance tag was 6 months out of date. He made a mental note. As he moved through the warehouse, he noticed how nobody wore back braces or steel-toed boots. One guy was lifting a pallet with a broken jack, dragging it across the floor while grunting. After 2 hours, Quinton's nerves were frayed. Cody was fast but reckless. He took turns sharp, overloaded pallets and bragged about how he could stack double the weight to save time. At one point, a pallet of cleaning supplies toppled off Cody's lift and exploded across the floor. Bottles rolled under shelves. No one cleaned it. Barry walked by, saw the mess, and just muttered, "Get it later." Quinton stepped off his forklift and helped a young woman sweep up the mess. Her name was Clara, and she looked barely 20. "Is it always like this?" he asked. She looked at him, surprised by the question. "Yeah." "You get used to it, or you quit." He didn't respond. He didn't know how to. Later in the break room, he overheard Barry chewing out a guy named Lewis for being slow. But Lewis was limping. Quinton had seen him earlier, dragging a loaded dolly with one hand and bracing his side with the other. "Boss ain't gonna care if your leg hurts," Barry barked. "You want a chair, go work in an office." Lewis didn't say anything. He just kept his head down and nodded. Quinton sat across the room, quietly boiling. This wasn't just inefficiency, it was dangerous. He knew Cody would be the breaking point, and sure enough, it came fast. That afternoon, Cody tried to move a double-stacked pallet of bleach and detergent onto a high rack. Quinton was nearby, loading a smaller shipment when he heard Clara scream. "Cody, it's tipping." The lift tilted forward. Quinton dropped everything and ran. "Back it up," he shouted. But Cody pulled the lever the wrong way. The top pallet slid off, crashed down, and cracked open liquid everywhere. One of the barrels rolled and slammed into a metal shelf, which wobbled violently. Quinton yanked Clara out of the way just before the shelf tilted. It didn't fall, but it groaned under the weight. Cody jumped off the lift, wide-eyed. "It's fine. Nothing actually hit," Barry stormed over, red-faced. "What the hell is going on? You let a rookie drive unsupervised, Barry," Quinton snapped, forgetting his role for a moment. Barry narrowed his eyes. "You talk like you run the place." Quinton caught himself. "Just saying." "Could have been worse." Barry grunted and walked off, muttering something about babying temps. Clara looked at Quinton. "You okay?" He nodded, wiping his forehead. "Yeah, but this place isn't." That night he sat in his truck, still in his Rick clothes, heart pounding. There was no way he could ignore what he saw. The risks, the injuries, the way people were treated, it was all worse than the reports ever said. Tomorrow he'd come back. But not as Rick. As Quinton Owens, owner, Quinton parked outside the warehouse just before sunrise. The lot was quiet, except for a delivery truck idling near the loading dock. He didn't wear the hoodie today. No disguise. No fake name tag. Just black slacks, a gray jacket, and a badge clipped to his chest that read, Quinton Owens, owner. He walked through the front door instead of the employee entrance. The receptionist glanced up, startled. "Mr. Owens," he nodded. "Is Barry in the building?" She hesitated, then picked up the phone. Within minutes, Barry came through the hallway, his jaw set tight. His demeanor changed only slightly when he saw Quinton, but not enough. "Didn't know you were coming," Barry said, his voice flat. "That was the point," Quinton said. "We need to talk, somewhere private." Barry led him to the office overlooking the warehouse floor. The blinds were half open, giving a clear view of the chaos below. A pallet jack sat wedged between two aisles. Someone was already shouting from the far end. Quinton shut the door behind them. "I spent yesterday on your floor," he said, "as a temp." Name was Rick. Barry's mouth twitched, but he didn't speak. "I saw a lift with an expired maintenance tag," Quinton continued. "I saw workers lifting with no safety gear. I saw a shelving unit nearly collapse because a load wasn't secured. And I saw you watch it all happen without saying a word." Barry leaned back in the chair and crossed his arms. "This place is short-staffed," he said. "We're running 3 shifts with barely enough guys to cover 2. I've been asking for more hands for months." Quinton didn't blink. "You had enough hands to let Cody run lifts like he's in a demolition derby, and enough time to yell at Lewis while he's limping through his shift. But not enough time to fix a broken jack or clean a chemical spill." Barry's tone sharpened. "I'm doing what I can with what I've got." "No," Quinton said. "You're doing what's easiest." He stepped toward the window and pointed to the floor. "You've built a culture down there where people are afraid to speak up. They're overworked, undertrained, and told to shut up and move faster." "That's not a staffing issue. That's leadership failure." Barry stood up. "You think I'm the problem? I've been here 12 years. I've kept this place moving when no one else wanted it. We've been short on pallets, short on drivers, and I made it work." "At what cost?" Quinton asked. "You almost had a shelf collapse on a 20-year-old yesterday. You've got people dragging broken equipment across the floor because they don't want to get chewed out. That's not making it work. That's surviving on fumes." Barry didn't respond. Quinton's voice dropped. "You're done here. Go gather your things." Barry stared for a moment, then left without a word. Quinton walked downstairs. The buzz of forklifts and voices dropped as he appeared on the floor. People slowed, glancing his way, recognizing the face from the company newsletter. He stopped in front of the group near the loading dock. Cody was among them, leaning against a crate, sipping from a thermos. Quinton looked straight at him. Cody stepped forward. Cody straightened. "Yeah, you're off the floor, effective immediately." Cody blinked. "Wait, what?" "Why? You nearly crushed a pallet of chemicals yesterday. Then you left the cleanup for someone else. You've been operating lifts unsafely, cutting corners, and treating safety like a joke." "I was just trying to hit quota. You were reckless," Quinton interrupted, "and that ends now. Turn in your badge." There was silence. Cody looked around like someone might step in. No one did. He muttered something under his breath and walked off. Quinton turned to the remaining workers. I saw what you've been dealing with here. I saw broken lifts, no gear, people pushing through injuries because they thought they had to. That's not how we operate. That ends today. A few people exchanged uncertain glances. Clara stood near the back, arms folded, watching him. I'm not here to throw weight around, Quinton continued. But I will hold people accountable, including myself. From today forward, we're rebuilding this place the right way. He asked Clara to walk with him. As they moved through the aisle, he pointed toward the back corner. I heard you speak up yesterday. You tried to warn Cody before the pallet fell, she nodded. Didn't do much good. It did. You were the only one who reacted fast. What's your role here? Inventory and shipping tags. I also get pulled to pick orders when we're short. How long you been here? 4 months. You ever get trained on lift safety or spill response? No, I just learned from watching. He stopped walking. That changes now. I want you to help write the new safety protocol for this location. She blinked. Me? You know what's broken better than I do. You've lived it. You speak up. That's what I need. Clara didn't answer right away. Then she nodded slowly. They continued walking until they reached the back office. Inside, Lewis sat on a stool, wrapping his knee with an ace bandage. A clipboard leaned against the wall beside him. You shouldn't be working in that condition, Quinton said. Lewis looked up, startled. I didn't want to call out, Barry said. Barry's gone. Lewis stared at him. You don't work through injuries anymore. That's done. You need time off to heal. Company's covering it, starting today. Lewis's eyes dropped to the floor. I didn't want to lose hours. You've earned the time by showing up when no one else would. I'm not punishing that. But I'm also not letting you break yourself for a paycheck. Lewis nodded slowly, like he wasn't used to hearing those words from someone in charge. Quinton stepped out and dialed his operations manager. He gave instructions for a temporary team to be sent in from the Columbus location, people trained in OSHA compliance, forklift safety, and floor supervision. Not to replace, but to stabilize. He walked back through the warehouse with Clara. She pointed out the worst shelving units, the broken jacks, the blind corners where accidents nearly happened. We've had 6 near misses in the last 2 months, she said. No one reported them, didn't think it mattered. It matters now. He called in a structural inspector that afternoon. 2 racks were flagged for immediate removal. Replacement orders were placed by end of day. By evening, the energy on the floor had shifted, still tense but different. Quinton met with the remaining staff in the break room. No speeches, no grandstanding, just a promise. We're going to build a culture where safety comes before speed, where no one gets hurt just for showing up. A young man named Darnell raised his hand. What happens if we fall behind on orders? We fix the system, not blame the workers, Quinton said. He stayed until the last shift ended, walking the aisles, checking the gear, listening. Not observing from a distance, but asking questions. Not to audit, but to understand. Not once did he go back to the office upstairs. He'd seen enough from there. He was staying on the floor. Where the real work happened, the warehouse looked different in the early hours. Not visually, the sagging ceiling tiles and buzzing fluorescent lights were still there, but in tone. People moved with more caution. Conversations were quieter. Everyone had seen Quinton Owens, the owner, on the floor yesterday, walking the aisles, fixing broken systems with his own 2 hands. That wasn't something anyone here had experienced before. Quinton arrived just before 6 a.m., coffee in hand, still wearing the same jacket from the day before. Clara met him near the back office, a stack of printed documents in her arms. This is what I've got so far, she said, handing over the papers. Equipment checks, spill procedures, and a draft for a revised floor map. I marked the blind zones in red. He flipped through the packet. The pages were neatly organized, annotated with real examples. She'd even included a section on preferred footwear and where to source it locally. You stayed late last night working on this? He asked. Yeah, figured if you're serious about fixing things, I should be too. Quinton nodded. We'll get this implemented. But I want you to walk it through with the team, not me. They trust you. Clara hesitated. "I've never led anything before." "You don't have to pretend to be someone else," he said. "You just have to be honest like you were when I was Rick." She glanced down at the pages, then gave a quick nod. "Okay, I'll do it." They made their way to the main floor where a few employees were already gathering. Quinton noticed Lewis wasn't there. He'd insisted the man take a week off to rest. A light-duty temp had been brought in to cover his tasks, part of the relief crew from Columbus that arrived overnight. Near the northern aisle, a tall man in a dark green uniform with a clipboard under his arm surveyed the racks. He looked up as Quinton approached. "Carlson," he said, extending a hand. "Safety and compliance out of Columbus. We've got 3 guys unpacking new straps and harnesses in the back. I'm walking the layout now." "Appreciate you coming on short notice," Quinton said. Carlson nodded. "This place isn't the worst I've seen, but it's close." Before Quinton could respond, a sharp voice cut through the warehouse. "You didn't label this crate again." "That's the 3rd time." It came from a woman in her 30s, standing near the loading bay. She had a barcode scanner in one hand and was glaring at a younger worker, barely out of high school by the look of him. His hands were shaking slightly as he held the clipboard. I thought the barcode was enough," he stammered. "That's not how we do it here," she snapped. "You want to keep working, figure it out." Quinton stepped forward. "Is there a problem?" he asked. The woman turned, clearly surprised. "This kid's messed up the inventory tags 3 days straight. If he can't even label a crate, I don't see the point of keeping him on." Quinton looked at the young man. "What's your name?" "Derek." He looked back at the woman. "And yours?" "Shelley, I handle outbound." "Derek, did anyone train you on the tagging system?" He shook his head. "They just said follow the sheet. I wasn't shown how to match the tags to the zones." Quinton turned to Shelley. "Why didn't you train him?" "He's not my responsibility," she said flatly. "He came on during night shift. They're supposed to prep the orders. I just shipped them." Quinton stepped in closer, his tone calm but direct. "Shelley, we don't talk to people like that here. I don't care if they're new or if they've made mistakes. You don't get to humiliate someone trying to learn the job." She crossed her arms. "I've been here 6 years. I know what works." "Then you should know that bullying doesn't," he said. "If I see behavior like that again, you won't be part of this team." "Understood." Shelley didn't reply. She dropped the scanner on the crate and walked off toward the break room. Quinton turned to Derek. "Let's get you trained properly. Clara's putting together a new system. You'll shadow her today." Derek nodded, looking stunned. "Thanks." They moved on. Quinton met with Carlson again near the back wall where the new safety gear was being sorted. "Half the jacks back here aren't locking," Carlson said, "and 3 of the harnesses are outdated. Tags are faded. I'm pulling them all." "Do it. Replace everything." Carlson marked his clipboard. "You're not playing around." "Not anymore." By mid-morning, Clara stood at the center of the warehouse with a small group gathered around her. She held a floor map in one hand and pointed with the other. "This row's going to be one way only from now on. We'll mark it clearly. No more forklifts backing through blind turns. And this corner here, we're widening it. Too many near hits." The group nodded. Even the older workers, the ones who'd been skeptical yesterday, were listening now. Quinton stood near the edge of the group, letting her lead. "What about the racks in Zone 6? Someone asked. "They're unstable," Clara said. "We're decommissioning them. Starting tomorrow, we'll move inventory to the new steel racks that came in from Columbus." One worker raised a hand. "Are we getting any help for that? We've got 3 temps coming in the next 2 days. You won't do it alone." After the meeting, Quinton pulled her aside. "How did that feel?" "Strange," she said. "But right. You've got a future here if you want it. I'm not offering you a title today. But I want you to help design the training program for new hires. Start small, build it right." She nodded slowly. "I want to do it." Across the warehouse, Carlson flagged him down again. "We've got an issue," he said. "One of the supervisors from Columbus just reported something. A guy named Donnie, your floater, he's been walking off his station every 30 minutes, says he's checking equipment, but he's not logged any checks." Quinton frowned. "Where is he now?" "Break room." He headed there immediately. The door creaked open to reveal Donnie leaning against the vending machine, phone in hand. "You're supposed to be on the floor," Quinton said. Donnie looked up, unfazed. "Took a minute, it's slow right now." "You've already taken 2 breaks today. And you haven't logged a single equipment check," Donnie shrugged. "Everything's working fine." "You haven't inspected anything," Quinton said. "You've been using equipment check as an excuse to avoid tasks." "Come on, man, it's just a warehouse." Quinton stepped closer. "It's a workplace with real safety risks. You're not just slacking. You're endangering the people who count on you." Donnie rolled his eyes. "Whatever, you want me gone, just say it." "I do." "Hand in your badge. You serious? We don't need people who treat this like a joke." Donnie muttered something under his breath and left. Quinton stood alone in the break room for a moment, then walked back into the light of the warehouse, where the sounds of work, now focused, coordinated, echoed through the space. Outside, the sun had fully risen. The warehouse still had a long way to go, but the direction had changed. And as Clara led Derek through the new equipment protocols and Carlson coordinated with the floor team on the rack replacements, Quinton knew the shift wasn't just operational, it was cultural. And it was only just beginning. By the end of the week, the warehouse no longer sounded frantic. The clattering of pallets and the shrill beeps of forklifts were still there, but beneath it was a rhythm, a steadiness that hadn't existed before. Every aisle had clear sight lines. Temporary orange strips marked one-way lanes. And the racks that once groaned under their own weight were now replaced by solid steel units, bolted flush to the floor. Quinton stood near the fire exit, clipboard in hand, watching as Clara walked Derek through the new order staging process. She was patient but direct, pointing only when necessary, letting him figure it out. A few of the older employees had started coming to her with questions, not orders, not grumbles, but questions. Next to him, Carlson finished logging a final checklist on his inspection tablet. "You've still got a few structural issues to address, mostly in the west loading bay, but this place is no longer flagged as high risk," Carlson said. "I'd sign off on this shift working unsupervised again. That wasn't true 3 days ago." Quinton nodded once. "Appreciate you staying on as long as you did. I've seen worse. But not many places turn it around this quickly," Carlson said, then paused. "What are you doing about replacing Barry?" "I'm not rushing into it." Clara's stepping into the system's side. "But I'm not putting someone else in charge until I know they'd run this place like people matter." Carlson gave a short nod and left without another word. As the day rolled on, Quinton stayed grounded, moving between stations, checking in not just to monitor, but to learn what still wasn't working. By late afternoon, he'd filled a notebook with handwritten notes. Missing inventory tags on returns, inconsistent shift handoffs, and a gap in how incoming freight was prioritized. He'd have to address those next. Near the east intake dock, a soft knock against the metal panel drew his attention. It was Lewis, leaning on a cane, back in street clothes. He didn't look ready to work, but his eyes were clear. "Didn't expect you back this soon," Quinton said. "I'm not on shift. Just dropped off some paperwork for HR," Lewis replied, then looked around. "Place feels different?" "It is," Quinton said. Lewis adjusted his weight carefully. "I was thinking, once I'm cleared, I want to apply for a lead position, not because I want more money. I want to make sure no one else pushes through pain like I did." Quinton didn't hesitate. "When you're ready, we'll talk. But you won't have to ask twice." A few feet away, Clara waved him over. She stood beside a short woman in her 50s, hair pulled back under a knit cap, sleeves rolled up past her elbows. "This is Maggie," Clara said. "She's been doing inventory counts by hand for weeks because the scanner system's been unreliable. She's got a workaround." Maggie held up a laminated sheet filled with colored codes. "I match zones to inventory volume, then track movement by time of day, cuts double counting by half. I've been using these since Barry stopped updating the system." "And no one knew?" Quinton asked. "Didn't think anyone would listen," Maggie said. "You've just written the foundation for our new inventory system," Quinton replied. Work with Clara this week. We'll digitize your tracking method. You'll get paid for every hour you spend building it. Maggie didn't smile, but her shoulders relaxed. As the sun dipped low, casting long shadows across the concrete, a new delivery rolled in, one they'd been waiting on since Monday. 3 wooden crates marked lift attachments, certified, were lowered onto the dock. Clara signed for the shipment, and Quinton helped crack them open. Inside were precision-rated clamps and harness-ready extensions, gear Barry had been told to order months ago but never did. Clara ran her fingers along one of the clamps, checking the welds. "These'll help with the heavier loads," she said. "No more stacking bleach like it's bricks." Quinton nodded, then turned as a voice called from the breakroom doorway. "Mr. Owens?" It was Darnell, the same worker who'd asked about falling behind on quotas earlier in the week. He stepped forward cautiously. "I've been thinking," Darnell said. "I used to just come in, do the job, and leave, keep my head down, but the last few days. You're building something better here. I want to stick around, learn more, maybe help train new guys." Quinton studied him a moment. Darnell had been reliable, quiet, but consistent. He hadn't spoken up before, but he'd listened. He'd adapted. "We're going to need people to teach the new systems. People who understand what it used to be like," Quinton said. "I'll put you on Clara's rotation. Start small, learn the basics of onboarding." Darnell nodded once and returned to the floor. Quinton looked around. There were still gaps in staffing, still old habits that would take time to unlearn. But there was structure now. There was trust. He moved to the manager's office above the floor, not to stay, but to clear it out. The room still held Barry's old whiteboard, cluttered with crossed-out numbers and half-erased notes. Quinton wiped it clean. He opened the desk drawers, found an old folder full of unsigned safety audits, and dropped them into the shred bin without hesitation. As he turned to leave, Clara called up to him from below. "Hey, when's the next surprise inspection?" she asked. He leaned on the railing. "Won't have to be a surprise if I'm here regularly." She gave a short nod and returned to checking the new harnesses with Maggie. Quinton stepped down the stairs slowly, letting the hum of the warehouse settle around him. The forklifts moved at safe speeds. Orders were being logged with clarity. And the people who once moved like they were counting the minutes to leave now worked with purpose. He didn't need to be undercover anymore. He didn't need to disappear into the floor to see what was broken. Because now, people knew they were being heard. And more importantly, they knew someone was finally paying attention.